The Battle of Saint-Malo was fought between Allied and German forces for control of the French coastal town of Saint-Malo in Brittany during World War II. The battle was part of the Allied breakout across France and took place between August 4th and September 2nd, 1944. United States Army units, with the support of Free French and British forces, successfully assaulted the town and defeated its German defenders. The German garrison on a nearby island continued to resist until September 2nd. Saint-Malo was one of the French towns designated as a fortress under the German Atlantic Wall program, and its pre-war defenses had been expanded considerably before the Allied landings in Normandy during June 1944. As part of their invasion plans, the Allies intended to capture the town so that its port could be used to land supplies. While there was some debate over the necessity of this in August as the Allied forces broke out of Normandy and entered Brittany, it was decided to capture rather than contain Saint-Malo to secure its port and eliminate the German garrison. After initial attempts to capture the locality failed, the Allies began a siege operation. Infantry units attacked and secured large numbers of fortified German positions with the support of artillery and aircraft. A fortification on the edge of Saint-Malo was the final German position on the mainland to hold out. It surrendered on August 17th. After air and naval bombardment, the garrison on the nearby island of Sesimbra surrendered on September 2nd. German demolitions made it impractical to use Saint-Malo as a port, however. The town was heavily damaged during the battle and was rebuilt after the war. Prior to the Allied landings in Normandy, the German Army's 77th Infantry Division was stationed in the Saint-Malo area. This division had been formed in early 1944 near Caen in Normandy and had been transferred to Saint-Malo during May. The 77th Infantry Division was dispatched to Normandy soon after D-Day and suffered heavy casualties in the fighting there. The remnants of the division returned to Saint-Malo in late July, where it was reinforced with two anti-partisan units, Eastern Battalion 602 and Security Battalion 1220. It was later sent forward again as part of the ad hoc force that unsuccessfully attempted to stop the American breakout at Avranches. At the time of the battle, the German force in the Saint-Malo area comprised approximately 12,000 personnel. The garrison included the remnants of the 77th Infantry Division, which had withdrawn into the Saint-Malo area. Other Army units included the 3rd Battalion of the 266th Infantry Division's 897th Grenadier Regiment, Eastern Battalion 602, Eastern Battalion 636 and Security Battalion 1220. Luftwaffe units in the area comprised the 15th Flak Regiment and several other air defense units. Kriegsmarine forces included two coastal artillery units, Navy Artillery Regiment 260 and Army Coast Battalion 1271. The fortress commander was Colonel Andreas von Auloch, a veteran of the Battle of Stalingrad and recipient of Germany's highest military honor, the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. The U.S. Army official historian Martin Blumenson and historians Willard Stern and Nancy Nara state that he treated French civilians correctly. He was disappointed to command a fortress and would have preferred to lead mobile forces. The willingness of Auloch and other German commanders in the Saint-Malo region to obey their orders and continue fighting until further resistance was impossible led to the prolonged battle for the region. During the battle, Auloch stated that I was placed in command of this fortress. I did not request it. I will execute the orders I have received and, doing my duty as a soldier, I will fight to the last stone. His headquarters during the battle was in the Citadel. An ad hoc unit designated Task Force A was the first American unit to enter the Saint-Malo area. This force was established by Patton in late July to rapidly capture the bridges on the Paris-Brest railway line, which ran along the north coast of Brittany, before they were demolished by German forces. It comprised the 15th Cavalry Group, the 159th Engineer Battalion and the headquarters of the 1st Tank Destroyer Brigade and was commanded by Brigadier General Herbert L. Ernest. The task force passed through Avranches on August 3rd and engaged German forces 2 miles from Dol de Bretagne that day. The commander of the cavalry group was killed in the initial clash, and Ernest decided to bypass Dol de Bretagne to the south after learning from civilians that it was heavily defended. Middleton directed the task force to probe Saint-Malo's defenses as it pushed west, to investigate how strongly the town was held. This led to fighting near Miniac, 7 miles west of Dol de Bretagne. As the Americans advanced towards Saint-Malo, they encountered stronger defenses to the south of Châteauneuf-d'Ille-et-Vilaine. In early August, Bradley reached the conclusion that Saint-Malo should be captured, and ordered that this take place. He believed that it would provide a useful port to supply the large American force in Brittany. The Americans still underestimated the size of German forces in Saint-Malo at this time. While French personnel had advised them that there were around 10,000 Germans in the area, American estimates ranged from 3,000 to 6,000. The 8th Corps believed the garrison comprised 5,000 personnel as of August 12th. There were actually more than 12,000 Germans in the Saint-Malo area. Nevertheless, the stubborn resistance demonstrated by the Germans during the early fighting around Saint-Malo convinced Middleton and Macon that it would be difficult to capture the town. American troops attacked towards Saint-Malo during August 6th. Despite artillery and aircraft support, the pace of the advance was slow. By the afternoon, the division was in contact with the main German defenses, including barbed wire, minefields, and machine gunners in pillboxes. The advance brought the Americans within range of the guns on Sezember, which opened fire. One of the first shells to be fired hit Saint-Malo Cathedral's spire and knocked it over. Due to the slow progress, Middleton reinforced the 83rd Infantry Division that day with the 8th Infantry Division's 121st Infantry Regiment, a company of medium tanks, and an artillery battalion. He also requested more air support. The 121st Infantry Regiment was given responsibility for capturing Dinant. The number of American troops assigned to the Saint-Malo area eventually reached 20,000. Free French forces surrounded Dinant on August 6 and found that several hundred Germans had remained in the town. The Germans were unwilling to surrender to Free French troops, but indicated that they would do so for Americans. On August 7, the 121st Infantry Regiment crossed the ranch to begin its advance on Dinant, and a party from this unit took the surrender of the Germans at Dinant. The American troops continued their attacks on August 13, which involved isolating and destroying individual pillboxes. Both regiments entered Dinant the next day. The Dinant position was liquidated on August 15, the Americans securing the town and nearby villages. Almost 4,000 Germans, including Baccarat, were captured. The remainder of the 83rd Division continued its advance on Saint-Malo during the attacks on the Dinant area. The other battalion under the 330th Infantry Regiment attacked towards Saint-Malo with the goal of capturing the causeway that linked the town to Péronne. This led to house-to-house fighting, the American infantry advancing with support from tanks, tank destroyers, and engineers. The ruins of Saint-Malo's casino were captured on August 11. The Americans were then faced with the challenge of crossing the exposed 1,000-yard-long causeway to assault the well-defended chateau on the landward side of Saint-Malo. On August 16, American infantrymen assaulted Fort National and Grand Bay, which were the last remaining German positions on the mainland of the Saint-Malo area other than the citadel. Fort National was found to be unoccupied, and the 150 defenders of Grand Bay surrendered after a brief fight. The citadel was a formidable position. It had been constructed by adding interconnected blockhouses to improve the defenses of the Fort de la Cite-d'Aleth. The thick walls were almost impervious to air attacks and artillery, and it had large quantities of water, food, and other supplies. The garrison was weakly armed with only 18 or 20 machine guns and a few mortars, but these weapons were skillfully positioned to maximize their effectiveness. After the unsuccessful August 15 assault, Macon ordered an intensification of the artillery bombardment. Two 8-inch guns were positioned less than 1,500 yards from the citadel, so they could target individual portholes and vents. Mortar bombardments also increasingly used white phosphorus incendiary and smoke rounds. An air attack using napalm incendiary bombs was planned for the afternoon of August 17. This was to be one of the first times napalm bombs were used in combat. Shortly before the airstrike was scheduled, a white flag appeared over the citadel and a party of German soldiers emerged from it to inform the Americans that Auloch wished to surrender. All of the 83rd Infantry Division other than 2 battalions from the 330th Infantry Regiment were withdrawn from Saint-Malo after Auloch's surrender. Following the surrender of Saint-Malo, the German warships that had been operating in the Gulf of Saint-Malo were rarely put to sea. The Battle of Saint-Malo had mixed results. While the 83rd Infantry Division performed well, the German garrison also achieved its goals. Auloch denied Saint-Malo's port to the Allies and, by detaining the 83rd Division and other 8th Corps units for 2 weeks,